Hello, Federico. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You look great. I already told you that. Thank you for your time. This is kind of very unexpected, and we are both not really that prepared. But I wanted to talk with you, and you said you had time, so let's do it.
Sure.
So how are things for you right now in Germany?
Oh well, it's been a roller coaster since the last time we talked. Good things, thankfully. I just finished my third record, actually, and I delivered it to the label like a week or two ago. So it's been great. The label, they love it, and we already have a lot of plans for it. We're going to start releasing the singles in February next year. So February, March, April, June, July. February, March, April, May, June. I skipped 1 month. And then in July, we're going to have the full release.
Okay.
It was actually really hard to pick the singles. So, these days, especially, I don't think releasing an album is the same as it was years ago. People used to buy a CD and sit down and read the booklet, and just enjoy the experience. The journey. Now it's more like, one song comes out on Spotify and then the next one comes and then it takes over. So we didn't really want any song to sort of lose potential momentum. But the label at the same time, they were like, we can't really release every single song as a single. And I think every song had the potential to be a single. Some of them more than others. But I guess I'm hoping that we picked strongest. You never really know what will get the most numbers or not, but I hope that people were like this compilation of collaboration tracks that I did with some of my favorite people in the scene right now. It's coming soon.
I was actually quite surprised to hear that it's just your third album. Really?
I mean, I guess my third album, if you count my albums with Entertainment One, now Monarch, Monarch Music Group. Obviously, if people go back to like the singles and Vulgar Display of Bass and all these albums, but the thing with those albums is that a lot of them were like free releases. I guess I was still trying to build my name out there. So there's not to say that there's no value to what those compilations were, but I guess this new series of albums with Entertainment One, Monarch Music Group, is, I guess, like the first time where I actually had a CD of Zardonic printed and I could hold in my hands. So it's my third album with Monarch Music Group.
But you do a lot of collaborations. This is kind of. I'm quite annoyed because you get all the cool guys, I mean, is it about does it your management do all the pre-work to set up, or is it kind of like, I would like these guys, or I would like that? At the moment,
I'm just working on my own. I mean, my manager James Jetta, he helped me a lot during the years, but in recent times. He actually had to deal with a lot of health issues, sadly. And also with me moving to Europe, it was harder for him because he is in Las Vegas. So at some point, I guess we just sort of grew apart. But, I mean, we're still good friends. He still gives me some business advice every now and then. But right now, I'm just working on my own for the most part. There's people out there that help me out. Sure, like they get a commission if they get me something. I have a very good friend, for example, called Ivan Munoz. He has a company called Artists and Relations, and he connects musicians with brands, essentially. He is the guy that connects us, say, for example, if Arturia wants a new set of artists to promote their products, and, we're also maybe looking for, I don't know, some new products to try, something new cool to have, or maybe they need new presets for the new synths. Like, that's the guy that is sort of behind the scenes to make that happen, and he's done a great job. I had the opportunity of doing factory presets for the newly released Korg MS-20V that Arturia did, which is a huge accomplishment for me because I mean, I know the sound of the synth, but I actually never had one of those in my hands. Like once in like a master class in Moscow, and I remember like I was still struggling with it because I think there was some issues with it. Like it wasn't how to say the I thought that I was being a noob, and I'm like, if I'm sending the LFO out here into this input, why is it not being modulated? Like, am I doing something wrong here? And so the unit was faulty. So
okay.
So, but you know, I still managed. But that was like the closest I ever got to having one of those in my hands. And then the new editions came out. But you know, at some point you have to stop collecting gear because you know it's I have more than enough. Exactly. I want to get rid of some of my own stuff. But anyway, having the opportunity of working with the MS-20V was great because I could then you know you could harness the sound and then you can take it to the next level. Because obviously as a plugin, then you can get away with adding so many other things. Like it can be a polyphonic synth right now if you want it to be. And it sounds so freaking cool. So and they were very happy with the sounds, which is what really matters to me. You know, I mean, I could tweak as many knobs as I want, but ultimately, if the results are not good, then what's the point? So they are happy with the sounds, and apparently people are also very happy. They keep coming back. Hey, we want more sounds from Zardonic. So it's been something good for me. It's been a very, very satisfying experience. So hopefully people out there think that the sounds are cool.
Cool. Yeah, because I think we touched on it last time. Sometimes as a free musician, it's not easy to have like a steady income. So you kind of need to kind of have a lot of different income streams so that you I know it more from actors, actors, we land one role and then we are, get paid for that, and then we need to find another one. So for them, like having a TV series or something is a blessing because we get permanently paid for the foreseeable time, So and for musicians, it's the same. But you also
similar to synchronization, licensing, all this stuff. Like so if your music makes it in a TV show, that's it. I had that blessing in a few times, namely in some of those occasions, thanks to James Jetta. Like he was able to get my music in TNT and NBC Sports back in the day. So that actually did really well for a while, and right now what I'm working on myself, which is one of the things that actually I would say definitely saved my situation during the pandemic, was having the blessing of making music for video games, which was a dream of mine since I was a kid, actually. I had a lot of fun.
And how do because for me, I'm a dabble with music myself a little bit, but I find it personally hard to write something specific for a scene or for I have more like when I feel like it, I make a song and it works for me, but I don't if you want to do a specific feeling or a setting, or how do you approach that? Because this is a next level of music making. I mean, you're a better musician, of course, but I think
don't be so hard on
challenging.
Yourself. Everyone has different sources of inspiration. In my particular case, that's actually the easiest thing for me. To me,
sorry, really,
writing,
I should speak English.
Writing catchy things, for example, that's really hard for me. I know what's catchy. I usually, and then when you ask me about collaborations, that's actually why I collaborate so much, because I have I have all the confidence in the world about my engineering, about my production skills, but when it comes to composition, I am much better at conveying feelings. Like if you tell me a story, if you tell me a scene, I can make music to that fits perfectly. But if someone tells me like do something catchy, like nah, I can't do it. I'm not able to. So when I need to do that, I usually ask for help. I think one of the few things that I did that was really catchy that was my own making, my own music, was Takeover. Like that little riff, that's me. That's all me. I'm really proud of that because it was one of the few things that I was able to do. It was just really catchy, and people sing it along. They love it. But most of the time, I make music that is how to say. There's a very technical term for it in academic terms, but for lack of a better word, let's call it soundtracky.
Okay.
Like soundtrack music that feels like a soundtrack, that feels epic, that feels like it's describing a situation, a story. Like that's something that comes really, really easily for me. But these are things that are not necessarily loop friendly.
Yeah, this is not for a live show or something. It's more for sitting down and listen to it, and so you're the perfect fit for a video game then.
For soundtracks,
so, for soundtracks. So which one did you do so far?
So I've done there's a couple of them that I cannot mention yet because they're not out, but there's a VR game called Super Hot. The original version did not have music, but they released a sequel called Mind Controlled Elite. If everything goes smoothly, they should also have a VR port for that expansion, and I really hope so because I love that game. It's just a PC version for now, but I think they realized that the majority of the fan base, so to say, of the players that like to play Super Hot, they play in VR because it really completely changes the experience. So when you have it's much better in VR.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So, but this sequel is also, I thought it was really interesting because they added a lot of they added a little bit more depth to it. Like there was a story behind it. It wasn't just about shooting red guys. Like there was. It was more like it felt like we're inside.
I saw. Okay, yeah, cool. Okay.
So if you play through the story mode, you start hearing little pieces of music in specific parts, and I did all of them basically. It's funny because when I started creating music for it, it was really, really loaded with details, and like I tried to go for something that was. My idea was something sort of like Portal 2 meets Quake.
Okay.
1 in terms of soundtrack, like the style, the stylistic choice for the sound, and they had to ask me to sort of
to reduce
tune it down
a little bit to reduce.
Yeah, they were like, this is amazing. And it has so much detail that it's too distracting. And then they gave me an example. They gave me a gameplay example. And I was like, oh my God, I'm approaching this the wrong way, dude. I'm so sorry. I was really annoyed, of course, because I put so much love into some of those tracks. But ultimately, what matters in the end is that, the most important thing is the game. It's not like an idea that some 3D modeler had or the music that the soundtrack guy is making. It's the game. And that was something that I had to come to terms with. It didn't really take too much for me to do that. It was just like, this is going to suck, but these guys are totally right. So give me a sec. Let me try this again. And then I redid some of the tracks, like same original idea, but just like stripping them down. And they were like, this is perfect. And then I realized that sort of in the case of this soundtrack, it was a case of
less is more.
Less is more.
Yeah. It sounds like, because you maybe, I know your sound, and you're quite rich by itself, and I think you need to. It would distract from the game, I guess, if you put in too much, and this is, of course, it needs to help the game and needs to underline it a little bit, but not be the main focus.
Yeah, this is true. But to be fair, there's also people who, ultimately it's a stylistic choice. You have to respect what directors want. I've also had people that ask me for the opposite. They want to have tracks, like they give me examples of, I don't know, I started working for music for this game that I cannot mention yet because it's not out yet, but it's coming out next year. It's going to be really cool. And I wish I could give more details. It's gonna be great. It's an indie developer, but it's an indie developer that is also very, very prominent in the VR scene. I don't know why, but it seems like the VR guys just love my music. So it's gonna be another VR game, and they gave me a lot of examples with like Mick Gordon tracks and stuff, and Mick Gordon makes like 8-minute long tracks with details everywhere, and I'm like, okay, if that's what they're looking for, then I'm trying to give them something like that. But at the end of the day, I'm also like, listen, I understand what you're going for, but I also have my own style. I don't want to impose it on what you're doing, but let me try this instead. And I will still sort of, I will adapt to the concept ultimately, because, if you have to do music for whatever, the music has to match the concept. But I think we found a very good in-between point. Like some songs were simpler than others based on the characters. Like, in some cases, these guys were also like really excited about having something super, super full of detail. And then they would come back and say, well, the music has too much detail. And then I'm thinking, yeah, I remember hearing this before. So, so how about let me do my thing. Let's try this first. And then if you want, we can add more details after the fact. But try this music in the game first, and then let me know. And then they would come back and say, yeah, this is working. So, it's one of those things. It's working with humans, working with other humans.
It's always a back and forth and stuff. Yeah, but you mentioned something that I just realized now, because it's also, if you do your own music and if you do collaborations with music you want to put out for dancing and for shows and stuff, it's clear that your style is in it, But if you do it for a video game, it's of course your style is less prominent, I guess, because you need to kind of tone it down. However, I just realized that. So sometimes you're more really like a just composer for this bit, basically, and not DJ Zardonic composes this bit and it will be different.
If what they want is drum and bass, I can very much provide. It's not a problem. But I think this is what I like about soundtracks. It just gives me so much freedom. I don't have to be making drum and bass all the time. I love drum and bass, but it's I've been doing this for almost 20 years. After some point, I'm like, I need to do something. So I'm glad that I have this opportunity to create different things. Another game that I did music for recently was Red Out 2. It's and I loved it because it's like a futuristic racing game, sort of a tribute to Wipeout, F-Zero, that sort of thing. And they gave me some references of my own tracks, which was great because it was much easier. Like they were like, we really like Race Hell, so we want you to do something like Race Hell. I'm like, okay, wonderful. So I just sit down, write a riff, put a similar rhythm, send it to them. Ask, do you like this, or should I take it in a different direction? Right? This is perfect. So that one was really, really smooth, actually. Working with the guys from Red Out 2, because they were big fans of the Zardonic sound, and they wanted. They specifically referenced music from Anti-Hero and Become. So it was a bit easier because then I had already a starting point. Being that said, though, the engineering is still different. For a video game soundtrack, like I'm not trying to go balls to the wall loud, and it doesn't have to be super clipped like most club masters. They are insanely loud, for better or worse. To me, that can be sometimes a great thing and sometimes a terrible thing. But for soundtracks, you have a little bit more of like the music matters more than the loudness, so to say.
Yeah, you need to be a little bit subdued because somebody else has the volume knob in the hand. It depends on what the scene is. If it needs, it can swelling or it can go down, and it's a different beast, but it's cool. I'm very happy for you. That you found something where you really fit in well, and have an income, because for musicians it's so annoying that if you can not do shows like was in the. So how about shows? Are you able to do shows again? You are, right? Sure. And you're doing
shows are coming back. I mean, they're definitely not the same as it used to be. I mean, especially
but
the
you're wearing
smaller
a mask
scenes,
anyway. Sorry, I just needed to say it with a stupid joke. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not good. No, I mean, I think a lot of the smaller scenes, I think they were the ones that suffered the most. I mean, the festivals, like, yeah, of course, the bigger the shows, especially the shows that had to be canceled several times, a lot of these people, they have depths that completely escape our imagination. You wouldn't be able to put these numbers together. And music festivals, big music festivals, they generate a lot of money. These are like, some of them are like even government sponsored, because they realize, okay, these people are like paying so many taxes because of the sheer amount of income. They're bringing people to a specific city, so that's tourism. And so it's all a festival doesn't just exactly. It's not just about making a party anymore. It's a completely different animal that everyone can benefit from. So it's a beautiful experience, actually. I'm really happy that we can still have music festivals, but there are smaller scenes like I don't know, I'm thinking right here, Lithuania, for example. I played there a couple times. It's great, but it doesn't really have that much of a scene. That doesn't really matter to me. Like, I don't have to necessarily stick to shows that are for like 10,000 people or else. I don't mind playing smaller shows. I think I'm happy to adapt to each market, because I love traveling, and I like to have the opportunity of seeing different places, meeting different people, eating different food, sightseeing. Like, I really enjoy this. It's a reason why I chose this lifestyle. Like, if not, then what's the point? So there's always going to be markets that have that are more favorable than others, so to say. And I was just talking to a friend from Lithuania, and she was telling me a long time ago, like, she wanted to put together a party, and then COVID happened, so we forgot about it. And I was just talking to her, like, hey, so what do you think about, like, is there still a possibility? Because I can always just come over and figure something out. And she said that, we don't think we can put something together for more than 200 people. And, a personality like you deserves so much more. I'm like, I mean, come on, man. Of course, I'd rather play for a lot of, there's more money for everyone. Everybody wins. But at the end of the day, there's some, I think if you lock yourself out of certain markets, then you're just not going to live. You're not going to have that experience.
And I don't. Yeah, exactly. That's the experience I would kind of harp on a little bit, because it's sometimes. I mean, I completely understand. It's great to play in front of 10,000 people, and I guess the adrenaline rush is enormous. But also, if you play just for 200 people and you see them, you can look them in the eye, and you can feel and smell them or whatever. So it's also the appreciation.
And they all stink.
Yeah, exactly. No, but this is like with
the stench of sweat from people just jumping all around with my music. But nothing more beautiful than that. And exactly, I mean this.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is a good thing for sure. I know exactly what you're saying. It's and I personally like that. I like to be close to people. It's something that sometimes. Especially since I moved to Germany, it's something that sometimes I struggle with, because Germans really like their personal space. And me coming from Venezuela, it's a bit like, I mean, but it's funny because I think right now I'm even becoming too German for my Venezuelan friends. Like, it's odd when someone wants to come and give me a hug and kiss me, and I'm like,
you're like, was passiert hier? Entschuldigung, gehen Sie zurück.
Genau, halten Sie Abstand. Yeah,
I mean, you're a while in Germany now.
It's cool to have the experience all together. There's going to be places that can generate more money. There's going to be places that don't. my agency as well is very reasonable in that regard. Like, they like to work together with both the artist and the promoter, because ultimately they are about building long-term relationships with promoters. Like, it makes no sense if these guys charge them an amount of money that they obviously cannot pay, and they pay it anyways because maybe they really like an artist, and then they leave a show with a financial loss. And then what's their motivation
exactly.
to do
and
something?
when they suffer and when they go bankrupt, and then we're gone.
Yeah.
So it's not a good situation.
And here's the thing: it's not just that. This is how you build scenes. So when you have a couple of kids who want to put together a show for 200 people in a club, that's the beginning of something right there. So when you're working together with these guys, you have the opportunity of growing that scene in that place, and then a few years later, then it becomes something bigger.
Exactly, and we will remember you. We will remember. I mean, if you do it a couple of times, some people will do it once and never again, and some people, but we will remember. And do you remember DJ Zardonic came to our first show, and it was so great, and we will be forever grateful. And this is also, I know, sometimes people think this is like a shark thing, everyone against everyone and so stuff. No, it's enough here to share around, and just do it for the love of music.
Not in Europe. In Europe, it's not that much of a shark competition, like you said. I think this is more of an American thing.
Okay,
the whole
the
cutthroat business. That is actually one of the reasons why I chose to live in Europe. I found since I came here that, of course, there's going to be some degree of competition. There's always going to be someone who's trying to step on your dick, if you'll allow me the expression.
I allow you.
I said it. But,
and I'm not cutting it.
Yeah, fair enough. But, I mean, ultimately, I think that there's enough space for everyone to just do whatever they're able to do. There's a space for everything. There's a space for every scene. Every scene can grow in a healthy way. It's not like, they're just pushing what's trendy and that's it. Like, no, there's a scene for everything. If you go look deep enough, there's a big scene, or let's not say big or small. There's a scene, period. Or something. There's a scene for goth, there's a scene for drum and bass, there's a scene for dark drum and bass, there's a scene for deep drum and bass, there's a scene for techno, for melodic techno, for industrial techno, for house, for tech house, for metal, death metal, progressive metal, for jazz, for like whatever. You can find a scene for everything. There's always going to be a venue in some corner that can house enough people to
get
to allow
together
something to happen. So I love that about it's something I always loved about Europe. It's one of the main reasons why I really like coming here. I feel like the scene is always very like the different scenes, the music scenes, always very thriving.
Yeah, I just realized that just recently I was at a little gig, and it's so nice to have just spaces where we didn't ask for, we didn't even wanted to know what people were doing. It was just like an open mic where we put everything there, and you can just do. I mean, sometimes it's a lot of shit what you see, but sometimes it's a lot of fun, and things can happen. You have these spaces where things can happen, like you said. Whereas people who are pouring their heart blood into it and really wanna start something, and they might not give you the best food or not the best sound system or whatever, but they are for it. They're burning for it, and they really want to do it, and they tell all their friends, and then they have a big party, and it's so cool. I mean, I don't know if we talked about it last time, but what we lack a little bit, and I'm not a religious person, but we lack this gathering together. All this social media bullshit. It's so. It's not the real thing. You need to be together. Like you said, you need to smell the sweat. You need to touch people, I mean, in a nice way, don't get me wrong here, but you need to be.
Why not in the wrong way as well?
In the wrong way,
this whole
exactly.
trend of like, oh my god, like consent, like this is new. Back in the 90s and the early 2000s, at least where I come from,
yeah, you're right.
I come from a place where people love having sex all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about here, but at least that's where I come from. Sex? And it's a very positive thing.
What was this again? Sex is something like the bunnies do, right? Or is it something? Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
it's not a human thing, right?
I get you.
I always thought like it's something so healthy, Mm-hmm. But you're right. Like this is a trend. I think I'm not sure if it's generational or cultural, or a bit of both. But yeah, like there seems like I guess people just seem to be maybe less interested about it. I don't know. As I said, I come from a culture where people we're all horny
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I mean, that's not to say that we're gonna do something without someone's consent, because then what's the point? Honestly,
yeah. But this is another can of worms we can open here, because it's like sometimes I feel like I don't want to flirt anymore, because it's so
exactly.
People get it so
wrong. We're heading to the other
and
extreme now, because everyone is so afraid of triggering somebody, of offending somebody, and then it's like, man, I'm just here trying to connect, to genuinely connect. I completely feel what you're saying, and I feel the same, man. I think this is something that's affecting all of us at some point. But ultimately, I guess that what this means is, yes, you do have less connections, but maybe in a way it sort of makes you appreciate when those connections happen. You know what I'm saying? In a way. I mean, I'm just trying to look at the silver lining here.
Exactly, and this is come full circle back to what you just said with the little clubs, and this is where things can happen. This is where like-minded people get together and can meet in real. In the real world with real people in real time and talk, because this is not what happens when you go into a chat room and I want to talk about, because sometimes you don't know what you want to talk about, or sometimes you don't know what you want to find or what you can find, what is out there, because I know exactly, I like only this and that's why I only are that.
Yeah.
And you don't know,
you like
you don't know
that,
shit.
and then
exactly.
Instagram shows you 1,000 things that are
you're
exactly
in your bubble. You're kind of captured in your bubble. You're a prisoner of social media. Exactly. This is exactly what I mean. Sometimes you need to step out of your comfort zone and be
for sure.
Put on your phone.
Be challenged with things that you're not used to. Like that's how you learn. I mean, I think if I had never been challenged with things I didn't like, I would have never been into metal. Because when I was a kid, I was like completely scared of it. It like metal music used to terrify me. No joke. It used to be like,
because of images or why it was so hard or. Terrified.
No, it's just like the whole vibe around it. In the 90s, people believed that Satan was a real thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And if you play it backwards, when you get the satanic blah blah blah.
And that was so amazing, because I feel like I was crossing a line, but that fear in its own, and sort of facing that fear, it just gave me so much power, because I also realized that a lot of people that I didn't like very much, they would just stay the fuck away from me. It was amazing. This sort of became a sort of shield against the people who are undesirable. And then you're just hanging out with this new, this new clan of guys who are actually really sweet and nice people.
Exactly. This is always hard-looking men, with exactly,
and, zombie T-shirts and vomiting stuff and Satan and blood and raping nuns and all the wrong things, But it was so cool because it was wrong, and I think that's something that I believe is missing in music so much these days. I remember Thrasher from Prospect Recordings, a DJ Thrasher from the Netherlands. It's look him up if you don't know. He does. He's a legend. He's a guy that has been.
I think I heard of him, but I don't. Yeah, I have to admit I don't know him that well.
It's all good. He's he's been helming a brand called Prospect Recordings and Prospect Nights. They pushed sort of harder style of drum and bass and hardcore and crossbreed. They do an annual gathering every December called Prospect XL, which is huge. And it's all musicians and DJs that are precisely playing things that are not safe, and that is his thing. Like they did this documentary about Prospect, and that was the first thing he said. He doesn't like the idea of creating a scene that is safe. Why does it have to be safe? Metal is not about being safe. You know, all these Norwegian bands in the 90s, they were burning churches, man. Like, think that through for a second. Burning churches. What is this thing about making metal woke and safe? It was about offending people. It was about being wrong.
It was punk.
It was about pissing people off.
Exactly. It was kind of to anti-establishment and doing things. And you're absolutely right. It's kind of, we are too. We need to get kicked out of our comfort zone. And I wanted to say something else. Oh, yeah. And also not always pleasing people, you know? And, now I remember. It is kind of
We're all becoming people pleasers and walking on eggshells, pretty much. It's like, it's like being around a borderline person, but like on a social level or something. It's a freaking, there's an episode of this Genius series that Netflix did called Black Mirror. You probably watched it. That episode of this girl who's like trying to get social scores, and she's like smiling and getting a selfie, and she looks so cute and so pink and so perfect and all, and just going to her friend's birthday and oh my god, and then she completely loses all her social points, and she ends up in jail next to a guy, and they have this something that feels like such a liberating conversation, which basically consists of both of them just completely insulting each other and just saying what they really feel in the most raw sense. Obviously, if you take that to the other extreme, that's also a bad thing. Like every extreme is a bad thing. We spoke about this in the last conversation. Extremism is bad.
This is true.
So if you take offending people to an extreme, then it can also get out of hand. Like it's you can you piss enough people off, and then at some point you're going to have somebody fighting back.
Exactly.
And then fighting back.
Exactly.
And then it's one word, then it's one fist to your face, then it's a knife, then it's a gun, then it's a nuclear bomb. So we still have to find that balance. We need to be able to express ourselves. We cannot be walking on eggshells, but we also
but we should be honest. We should be basically. We just should be honest. We should kind of authentic. This is an overused term, but it's kind of be true with yourself. Because when we don't have this discrepancy, I just thought about one thing. That's not so much concerning you, but I'm a radio DJ. I have my radio show, and I get a lot of songs, and sometimes I have to write why I don't want a song, and and sometimes I just want to say, this because it's shit. It's really bad. It's a lot of bonkers. It's really stupid stuff. It's not well made, not well crafted, nothing. It's just bullshit. But of course, I cannot say that, because when I get, so I say, I feel what you're getting to, but it's not really, maybe some more production value, blah, blah, blah. So I sugarcoat around it. And I want, but on the other hand, you also touched on that, I also, maybe this is a new starter. This is a guy who just starts with music, and he really thinks it's good. But I'm listening to a lot of music, so of course I can tell him it's bad, but I should not be too hard on him, because when how can he become better?
This is my thing. One of my mentors, so to say, when I started making electronic music, was a guy that he's not necessarily the most successful guy out there, but he had a success in his own right. He was a part of a local scene in Venezuela. He played with several bands, and you can say that he's very well made a career out of music himself. Like, I mean, what I'm saying is, maybe he wasn't like a Grammy-nominated artist or whatsoever, but
he was somebody in the scene. He was.
He was somebody. He was making money from music. He was paying his dues. He was a person with influence and a person with knowledge. Don't ask me why I was always trying to show my stuff, and was very harsh about his feedback. Very harsh. Okay. He wouldn't even tell me this has potential. He said, "This sounds like shit. Go back home and do it again, and don't talk to me until you finish it." And I would get so pissed at him sometimes. At some point, I almost I think I almost punched him in the face. Okay. It got really close at some point, and then I was like, I think he at that point he realized, okay, he's really overstepping his boundaries. But he did tell me one time, he's like, "Dude, I knew you had a lot of potential. Matter of fact, some of the songs you were already showing me to me already sounded great. But I knew you could make that better. And if I had told you that you were doing something good, you would have never tried to make it better." He's right. You know, there's a really interesting movie, which I also believe maybe it's a bit of another extreme, but it sort of proves that point as well. It's called Whiplash. Did you watch it?
Oh, yeah. I haven't watched it yet, but I know what's going on there. Yeah, it's really where he pushes also his pupils to the extreme.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, I'm still, obviously we can also touch into all these aspects of psychological abuse and all the traumas and everything that it leaves. I mean, it's also maybe not the best way to go about it. So it's a very old school movie in that regard. But I think ultimately the point of the movie is that, you can't just sugarcoat people, and because this is the thing. We're becoming sort of and this is a consequence of this sort of or I think we are the first generations that had that message from our parents telling us, you can do whatever you want, and you will, and just think about it, and you will do it. And then everyone needs to watch Fight Club. Everyone needs to watch Fight Club, because this is exactly what's going on. We were also part of that in a way. I mean, I guess we didn't. Maybe we woke up from it a little earlier, but. Yeah, we've been told since we're kids that we can all make it and we can all be great and we can. And then the truth is,
I wasn't, but I know what you're talking about, because everyone gets a medal today. Everyone. Only one kid runs the race, but everyone gets a medal for. Yeah, you tried hard, you did your best, and you're doing good. And
give him a medal for trying.
Exactly, and this is not true. This is. I mean, I understand what nobody should be left behind or whatever, but it's not true, and it's also it kind of hinders the children to develop where they are strong, because they think they can do everything, but they cannot say, okay, this is not for me, this is not for me, this is not for me, because they win everywhere. They never get challenged, and then they get to the real world, and then they have a bad boss, and who tells them, oh, I cannot work.
And then they break down, and they come back home, and they cannot cope with it. And this actually makes people really sensitive to trauma. This makes people sensitive to trauma, because they go out there believing that, okay, this is how the world is supposed to be, and it's all rainbows and unicorns, and then no, it's not. And I think that's basically that's the beginning of trauma right there, like coming to terms with the fact that that there's I read something about it. I don't know what the exact words were, but I read something about it. Like, this is essentially the things that trigger trauma in itself.
Also depression, because for me this is kind of, you live an unauthentic life, because it's not true that you are good in everything, and it's absolutely fine, because nobody is perfect and nobody is good in everything. But if you are not seeing it yourself, then you're kind of living in a wrong. Your mind needs to kind of correct all the time, and this makes stress on you, and when you are feeling that you're not right, but I need to be perfect all the time. I look at Instagram, everyone smiles all the time, and everyone has the best figures,
perfect,
and everyone.
Then I'm not good enough.
Exactly.
If I'm not good enough, then I have no social value, and I want to kill myself, whatever the hell. Like,
exactly,
it should not be. But I think at the same time, we can see through it in a way. And I think that's the beginning of something good. Like, I guess at some point, I would like to believe that certain change has to happen. Because I think people are just going to be, at some point, they're just going to be so fed up with it that they're
I think so too.
What's the point? You know?
Because for me, it's like I always describe it like a pendulum. You know, the pendulum swung extremely to one side, and now it's kind of swinging back and kind of finds a middle ground, because it cannot be that extreme, you know, that like we said in the beginning, you cannot even say, oh, you look good today, oh, didn't I look good yesterday, what is wrong, and so just making a compliment is kind of like, oh, you want to have sex with me? No, I just wanted to say you look nice and your hair smells good, or whatever, you know, something like this.
I had many friends who would remind me every day, even if it wasn't the case, but they would tell me, "Oh, you look so good today. It's such a nice thing." I a lot of my friends would do that, like, you know, female friends as well, that maybe they were not necessarily interested in pursuing something beyond that. Maybe maybe if given the chance, yes, maybe they would have also had sex with me. But you know, one thing is primal instincts. Another thing is like actually taking that into a real situation. Like, there's many things that keep us from that. You know, maybe it's not what they're looking for, whatever. But I think it's nice if I have an attractive female friend that tells me that I look nice today. That makes me feel good, you know. And I go back home like, hey. Cool.
And it doesn't
again,
mean,
you know?
exactly, and it doesn't mean that you know, oh, let's go to bed, you know, right away, or so. Just being nice to people. This is something what I discovered more in the United States, of course. You know, people were kind of, it was a little bit too much for me as a German, but people were like, oh, you look good, man, you're working out or whatever. And
that's something that Americans are really good at, and I love it. I love it. Americans get a lot of compliment. A lot of people think it's fake. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's necessarily fake. Actually, I think that's genuinely
a style
who
of
people are.
Conversation. Right? It's a style of starting a conversation. You know, even I remember I was once at Walmart or somewhere, and the guy who packed my bags was like, "Oh man, you look good. You work out and stuff." And you know, there was nothing in it for him, just to make a nice comment and stuff. And so it was like, yeah, and thank you, and you. I completely get that, and I get also that people say it's fake, because for me it's a little bit too much, you know. I'm used to Germany, and I'm German, so it's a little bit too much.
In Germany, excellence is a national duty. So anything that is below it is that's something that I've found here. But also that says a lot about why Germans are known for being efficient, for being industrious, for being, you know, for having the best quality. Because here, you know, when they get to the point, I keep hearing, you know, the best compliment you can get here. I know it's not exactly literally like that, but, you know, nichts zu meckern.
Yeah, something ganz gut. Ganz gut is
Yeah,
already
ganz
like in English. In America, you would say, "Oh, this is perfect. This is awesome, dude. Awesome, amazing." This is, it's quite
I
good.
used to start.
Okay.
I used to start using those words, but in German. I wanted to learn, and so I started asking. So, okay, how do I tell someone that something's awesome? Yeah, no, ganz gut. No. I want to say the actual word for awesome. I want to start learning all these exaggerated words like fabulous and whatever. And a friend of mine just told me all of them, and I started using them.
Nobody will take you seriously.
People would just look at me like I was a freak. I was like, I don't know. I would go to a restaurant and eat like an amazing meal, because to me everything really is amazing. And they would ask me like how do you say, hat dir geschmeckt?
Hat es Ihnen geschmeckt?
Hat es Ihnen geschmeckt? And then I would reply like, ja, das war weltbewegend. And they would look at me like, okay, come on,
are you a little bit, yeah, so see, exactly, we have a completely different baseline, and but what you just said kind of made me think, and you're absolutely right, it's so nice to be happy and wondering about things and finding things. It's kind of like a childlike thing that look at this flower, how nice it looks, and this song is awesome, I want to dance to it again and stuff. This is like a child, and it makes life so much fuller. We Germans are a little bit very reserved, unfortunately, in this regard. Yeah, they will look strange at you if you say, das war wunderbar, das ist ja so toll, ein Gaumenschmaus. They would not take you seriously.
Yeah, exactly. It is kind of sad. Like, I mean, sometimes I feel it's not fair to complain about it. Like, I can also give you a whole list of amazing things about Germany. There's a reason I'm still living here. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, there's many reasons I'm still living here. But I don't know. I do have to say
this is really not
that's
our
one
strong
thing
suit.
that I would suggest that if people here could slowly be a bit more open in that regard, I think it would be good for Germany.
But just be the change you want to see. That's what I'm doing, because I do that. I there was a lady the other day next to me, and it was an old lady, like really old, 70 or something, and I said, "Oh, you smell good," and she was like, "Oh yeah. Kind of, and just be the change you want to see, and this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to be, because you're absolutely right. Germans in general are very, looking grumpy and. I had a boss.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's that much like that.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean. It's people are reserved.
I wanted. Okay, I can give you a comparison, because I worked also in the United States, and here one of my bosses said once, "This is shit, and this is shit, and this is shit, and all what I didn't mention works good." Yeah, and in United States it was like, "Oh, Toby, you did a great job. You did," and I was looking at my boss and say, "But I did exactly what you asked me to." "Yeah, you did a great job, Toby. And I was like, but you told me, and you're paying me for that, so you don't have to. I mean, I was flabbergasted that I was so.
You weren't just
praised.
completely.
I was praised for my job, but this is what you wanted from me, and I did what you wanted from me, and nothing more and nothing less. And you're saying, yes, this was great, and yeah, it was cool, but I had to learn, just to finish this thing, I had to learn to kind of have the negative, that if I don't get praised and if I don't get something good back, good feedback from my boss, then I did something wrong. Then I have to look what didn't went wrong. It's kind of the negative. If you like an old picture, you have a negative. You have to see what's not there. And then you understand where you need to be better, because you get more praise, but no negative comments. So, yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes I have to remind myself sometimes who I am emailing, so I know when I can be German and when I cannot be, because this is something, again, so we. Because I'd like to go to the positive things I like about Germany.
No, of course. I mean, I like Germany too. I mean, I'm German, so.
Yeah. So that there's this thing when you get an email, for example. So what do you think? Germans immediately would look for everything that is wrong about something, but this is the fastest way to getting something to be excellent in the shortest possible amount of time. What do you think? Okay, I'm going to look for everything that is wrong about this. This needs to be fixed. This isn't right. This is a little bit crooked. And then they fix that. Nichts zu meckern. And then it's fast and it's done and it's excellent. So there's definitely something good to be said about that.
No, of course.
So when you have to waste a little bit too much time in saying like, "Oh my God, this is great. I really like the tones that you use. I think the style is great. Maybe you could try putting this." It's like you have to sugarcoat it. You have to prepare people for the negative feedback, and the negative feedback always comes to the maybe.
This is a good point. What I also, I'm German, like I said. What I really like is if you ask a German, you get reply and he means it. It's not like, sometimes in the United States and also in other places where you kind of have to read between the lines to understand if a person really likes it or not. The German would say, no, I don't like it.
I've had so many times also where people there would promise you things like, yeah, dude, for sure, come over to my place, let's have some drink. And they actually don't mean that.
Mm-hmm. But, you mean United States?
It's funny because I think we have a little bit of that too. Like sometimes we just want to be cool and just be welcoming, but maybe we don't necessarily know that person that well to actually bring him over or something. But we don't want to be, so we just say
rude. We don't want to be rude. So yeah, let's have dinner sometimes. That's the typical American thing. Yeah.
Over here, when I started saying that, I would get replies from people like, hey, so you mentioned something about having dinner sometimes. So I am free on Friday after 8 p.m. Should we meet? I'm like, what the fuck?
German take you seriously. This is kind of, this is not.
But this was amazing because it changed my perspective on everything. And now I am the one who's too German for people. When I get people telling me, yeah, I'll call you in an hour, and they don't call me in 1 hour exactly from the minute they said this, I get so pissed off. I feel like it's such a disrespect to my time.
For the viewers out there, I was 5 minutes late today, so he was very mad. He was steaming hot.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I guess I am integrated a little bit.
Yeah, you very much. How long are you again in Germany now? For 6 years? No.
Also offiziell. I am here since November 2017, as in with the Aufenthaltstitel. But I was here. I had moved already in July, but the first 3 months I was just using the sort of visa waiver thing. Then I did all the documentation to get the proper residence permit.
You got assimilated. You You are one of the Borg now. Yes, you belong to us.
Imagine that, because it's just I came here with a certain illusion, so to say. To me, I was never really moving to Germany. I was moving to Europe because in my eyes and in my head, Europe is one country and everybody loves each other. And then I come to Germany and realize not even between the regions,
No.
Like
Bavaria,
Cologne, Dusseldorf, that's already a problem.
It's not Germany. Bavaria is not Germany. And I have,
Bavaria is not Germany. Ostfriesland is not Germany. No, I mean, where is Germany?
Thüringen.
Is it Berlin?
Thüringen.
Not really. Yeah, Thüringen.
No, it's not. No, but see, that's a good point, because for me as a German, for me, I look like this of South America, because kind of I know, of course, there's a lot of different countries there, but it's kind of the South Americans. So okay, the Europeans, you have French, you have Netherlands, you have, and there also different regions in there. It's kind of it's impossible to get them all under one thing. It's everyone is so individual, and in Germany, Europe is even. Okay, I cannot really compare it because I've never been to South America, but I think it's as diverse as South America, with all the tribes and all the little influences with the Spaniards
were there. There's still countries, obviously, we all have, we were all mostly Spanish colonies, former Spanish colonies, but there were also Dutch colonies and French colonies and the Portuguese colonies, namely Brazil being the biggest one. Which is, I think it's most of the South American territory is comprised by Brazil. So, and Brazil was a Portuguese colony. Yeah. And then you have French Guiana, and then you have Suriname. But this is, the funny thing is, I think when we think about South America, it's funny because I've met so many people in the Netherlands that are from Suriname, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of.
And I'm like, I'm from Venezuela. Oh my God, you're from Venezuela. I'm from Suriname. And I'm like, where? Like, I actually had to double check. Oh shit! Yes, Suriname. We have a country next door.
It's your neighborhood, exactly.
And we just have no idea, because I think most of South America, but I never liked that, because I wanted to see all of it. I wanted to understand every corner of South America as much as possible, at least. Because when you think of South America, maybe you think of Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, but then if you think of, I don't know, El Salvador, Honduras, this is already a completely different world. Like there's not a lot of tourism happening between, say, Venezuela and Guatemala, for example. And Guatemala is such a wonderful place, beautiful place. So I was like, I need to go. I want to go to all these places. I want to see what's happening here. What am I missing out? What am I missing out on? Sorry. And I at some point I took a bus and I went all the way from Panama to Guatemala. Met a stop in Nicaragua. Some really, really shady stuff. There's, some of the stereotypes are true. Some of the stories they tell you, like, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't go through here. Yeah, you probably shouldn't. I mean, not everything is true, but there's some truth to the stereotype. It's the same thing when we're talking about the stereotypical German.
Yes, of course.
A lot of people are not like that.
Exactly.
But there's always going to be people who match the stereotype. The same will happen with Venezuelans, with Honduras, with El Salvador, with Argentinians. Argentinians are infamous for, they were the subject of all these jokes of the most pretentious nationality. Like they think they are the best in the world.
But we are the best in the world.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. There's Argentinians. they were a little bit like the British in that sense. Okay. But I think Venezuelans were not really looking at themselves, because I can tell you right now, and I take responsibility as a Venezuelan-born citizen, and consider myself a citizen of the world, because I've seen too much of it. I've absorbed too much from every little thing. But I can definitely tell you that Venezuelans are like the kings of being the kings. Like they just think they own the world. And anywhere they go, you need to put a fucking red carpet for them to walk on top of. Like it's so crazy, and I kept seeing it all over the place, and I'm like, shit, we actually think that we are some hot shit, and in a certain way, this can also be a very good thing, because it gives you sort of. You feel this confidence, like you can actually
you
take
can
on the world.
Just go there and so. But I was thinking as you said this, because I lived abroad myself as well, and I realized how much German I am as I was living in other countries, because things are so different there. And the craziest one was for me in Africa, where I really had to learn to understand what we are talking about, because we didn't lie, but we kind of bent the truth quite a lot, So it's and we didn't want it to make me. It was really weird, and we have a different. Where I really found out that I'm so German, we had a different work ethic. We were not lazy. We just work differently, and so things. And there I realized, okay, I need to go back to Germany, because I belong to my tribe, because this is what I know. This is how I know how to deal with things and how to approach things, because having been outside of in other countries is kind of, you also learn to appreciate what you have in Germany, And this is
for sure. I mean, I think about that sometimes as well. I definitely, there's a lot of things I miss about my country, and sometimes I think, like, dude, what if I just go back? I mean, but honestly, there's a lot of things against that possibility. In my particular case, being one of the main things being that, if you forget all the crime rate, all in the situation, and the political turmoil and all that stuff, it's sort of easing down a little bit. But I think if Venezuela was in the EU, if it was part of the Schengen area, if it was somewhere like, I don't know, next to Romania, maybe I could live there, because at least I would have a direct access to all these other countries where I am playing the most. Because my bigger market for shows is still Europe. Well, the biggest market was Russia, but obviously I can't go there right now.
Problems right now.
Yeah, there's
let's maybe not go. If something's going on, I don't know what. We've never heard of it, but something.
No, I hear you. We're not going there. It's too heartbreaking.
I have a friend I have a few friends in Russia, so I'm with the people, but certain things are not good.
I know. Same here. Friends in both Russia and Ukraine. It's heartbreaking, really. You can only hope that at some point, the governments are going to decide that maybe there are better ways to go about things. Maybe not bomb places. Like it's not nice. It doesn't bring anything good.
Yeah, no, it's I'm really we touched on this earlier a little bit, that people are so wrapped in bubble wrap, and nothing bad happens, and it's kind of a staunch reminder that there are still evil and bad things happening out there on our store boards. So in a very weird, and I hope people don't get me wrong, twisted way, I'm happy in quotes that things happened, because we need to wake up. Things are not always shiny and happy and good. We kind of have to also protect ourselves and protect our democracy and protect our way of living, against enemies. And I don't want to kill anyone, and I don't want to be rude or something, but we also need to be able to defend ourselves. That's basically it. I don't want to how you say, angreifen. No, I forgot the English word.
No, I know what you mean.
I don't want to attack. I don't want to attack anyone, but I want to be that nobody attacks me. I want to be strong enough to kind of repel them with my strength.
I mean, I keep telling people this when it comes to the sovereignty of a nation and the right to defend ourselves and whatnot. I personally, and let me start and finish, because I'm going to get to the point where you got to. I personally believe that war is obsolete. Military should be obsolete. We should not need the military. I believe that it's a total brainwash that a government gives you a free uniform with a flag that they decide to put on you, and they program you to go kill somebody else in the name of whatever piece of land that supposes a territory that's all an illusion created by humankind and all that jazz. But I realize that what I said is very, very idealistic at best. So sadly, this is what's up. This is the game.
Yep.
I don't have to agree with it, but it doesn't. Whether you agree with it or not,
the game is still. You cannot change the tables or the cards you got dealt with. And I'm absolutely with you. I would wish it would be the same, but then again, we are human beings, and there will always be somebody who wants more, or who wants something else, or who doesn't want to talk about it and have a discussion, or a democratic way of finding a solution. So
they want to force themselves in. I mean, this is. I think this is the way of. It's. I'm going to use a term that's very popular with the left, but I think this is what's really going on. It's imperialism.
Okay.
The thing is, when people think of imperialism, they only think about the USA. That's not the only country that can.
England. England was quite an empire, so we were kind of imperialistic.
Exactly, and I think that's it. But ultimately, there's a guy that I forgot his name, but I thought he was very very smart in that regard, because he was like you were being right now. He was just being realistic. When we keep talking about human rights and about what things should be, and that just gets you into a lot of trouble. Because sadly, whether we like it or not, when it comes to diplomacy, might makes right. Should that be the case? No, it really shouldn't be. A lot of things shouldn't exist. Nuclear fucking warheads should not exist. Exactly. Armies should not exist.
So
but
really
they do.
Stupid.
So ultimately, power is going to come down to the person who, has the bigger bomb.
exactly.
It's sad, but it is what it is. It's not the world that I want to live in. It's not the values that I live by. But it's something that
exists. We're living. Exactly. It's still, it's wishful
learn
thinking.
Coexist with all these people, and before one of them goes crazy, we have to learn to shake hands with all these people that we don't necessarily agree with, so we avoid coming to
a bad
the worst
conclusion. Exactly, to a bad conclusion. I think it's
ultimately, as you said, it's a really touchy subject that we sadly, we can talk as much about it as we want.
Maybe we will, we are just two musicians and we should just talk about music.
No, it's fine. I think it's good that we, we have to be able to talk about everything. It's our
true. That's also what I want in this talk. That we don't have any bars and only and we don't telling people to do suicide or do some bad stuff. We're just talking about our opinion, and
it's current topics. It's current topics that concern everybody. I mean, everyone that is a human being that has a heart, an inch of humanity, a heart, should be concerned about it for sure. And just like you, I have many friends on both sides of the fence. Completely. I mean, what can you say? It's a Ukraine is a war zone thanks to this. And I had also so many friends in Russia that were desperately trying to flee. Some of them thankfully fled, so that's one less person that's going to be drafted. And they have they're going. They were able to come as refugees in other countries. I think that's great, but I think at the same time, I think it's really sad, and I'm going to go ahead and say this. I know it's going to be it's a risk of maybe some people are maybe not going to like it, but I also think that all this like Russophobia is uncalled for, because there's too many people there who don't agree with what's going on.
Exactly.
And maybe they can't do much else.
And I, as a East German, can relate to this quite a lot, because we were also in an oppressive regime. I was 14 as the wall came down. But I still remember, and I know if you spoke out against the ruling class, you get into prison, you get tortured, or you get even killed. So I completely understand that there is no big rise. See, look at China. There's some riots now for the COVID strategy, for the zero COVID strategy, and this is really hard for them. For us it's easy to go on the street and say, "Oh, I don't want that, and I don't agree," blah 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 blah. But for them it's really their life is on the line, and their life of their family, not just theirs. And so I completely sympathize with the people in Russia. And I understand that we cannot just say, "Oh yeah, why don't we do it? Why don't do a coup or something?" Man, because you get killed for such stuff, it's not like in the movies, and everything is happily after. This is the real world where things go wrong. And anyway, so yeah,
I heard people say something like, it's really easy to point a finger and say, "Oh no, it's their responsibility. They have to overthrow the government." I'm like, dude, I come from Venezuela. They tried to overthrow the governments for the last 20 years, and it didn't happen. And there were rivers of millions of people in the streets, and the government didn't leave. Why did that happen?
And this is the thing. So I'm one of the rare, or East Germany is one of the rare cases where it worked, and this is just something to be very grateful for, that it went unbloody and without any big problems. But this is not the norm. The norm is bloodshed and the.
I read a little bit about it because I needed to learn about it for my
for your German test or your German
Einbürgerungstest.
Einbürgerungstest, is it this?
Einbürgerungstest, genau.
Okay.
Der Tag der Deutschen Einheit. And I thought it was it's such a beautiful thing, really, because. I think that reminds us that ultimately we always come to that point. No matter how oppressive governments can be, at some point, people just realize, like, there's no point in this.
We cannot shoot all of us. We cannot imprison all of us. We cannot shoot all of us. And then when you understand, okay, you know what, let's do it and go. And it might not work right away. There was Platz des himmlischen Friedens, Tiananmen-Platz in China, in 1985, I think, where it didn't work out, and there was this guy, the iconic picture where he was in front of a tank and stopped the tank, So this can happen, and anyway, I'm with the Russian people, and we are really nice people, and now I get even emotional because this is so stupid.
Dude, I mean, Russia is the place where the promoters treated me the best, where they paid the best, where they invested themselves the most in my brand. The people were always the friendliest to me.
And they know how to
women
party.
were the nicest
to
me.
Party.
I mean, I can keep going. I was going to move to Russia. I was going to move to Moscow in 2020. I mean, obviously, I'm sad to say that I'm glad I didn't, because imagine if I was living there in the middle of this nightmare.
A friend of mine is still living in Petersburg. Yeah. And he's still doing fine. He's a musician as well, and he just recently came to Germany because he was a tour guide for some musicians and stuff. Anyway,
he was able to get out.
He was able to. Yeah, he's a German. He has a German passport, and apparently it worked. It's. I also heard, the Russian scene. I had a Russian radio show and we stopped now with a war going on and stuff, and it's so sad. We kind of like a lot of Rammstein. Rammstein is big in where we like the extreme music and they're cool people. I really hate. Anyway, let's maybe I see we are now for an hour. I don't want to keep you too long, and I have to do.
It's okay. Yeah, maybe we could make some of the closing remarks, and then because I should probably get a shower and
you stink.
Get ready for bed because it's 6 p.m. and it's already pitch dark. So
soon comes the winter solstice. On the 21st is a winter solstice, and then the days get longer again. So just hold up a little bit longer, and then be happy that you don't go to Scandinavia or something. Where you
I know. I was in Estonia, in Tallinn, in summer once. So it was the opposite, right? I was going into a club at 11 p.m. and the sun was out, and I left at 3 a.m. and the sun was out. It would freak me out kind of a little bit. It's kind of like the people. How do we deal with that? We should really talk about it, because you get your sleeping patterns. I mean, you talked about sleeping patterns establishment, and you get completely lost. I heard. I have friends in Scandinavia. But think about it. You know what's funny? When I'm walking down the street, completely sleep deprived because I can't sleep properly because of this, and then all I see is this gray sky and rain all the time, and I'm walking and I have this really deep depression coming down to me, and then suddenly my head starts to make music to that scene,
Ooh.
And guess what music is playing in my head? Black metal. So there's a reason
makes
why
sense.
black metal happened in Scandinavia. Black metal could not happen in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Jamaica is like, yeah, man, yeah. and maybe soon in Germany. Maybe soon in Germany. We're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So let's see. Next time we may, it might take us a little bit longer for a conversation.
Yeah.
Because let's.
Because when that happens, we can celebrate like that. Yeah, I'm all about that.
We will. Okay. So thank you very much. It was a lot of fun to talk with you again, and maybe we should do it. Maybe not every 2 years, maybe a little bit more often if you want.
Sure.
So thanks a lot. Get a shower and all the best. And thank you very much. Have a good evening. Einen guten Abend wünsche ich dir. Einen schönen.
Vielen lieben Dank. Gleichfalls, mein Lieber, und schönen Abend noch.
Ciao, ciao.